The biggest changes in my life rarely came from epiphanies or radical decisions. They usually came from tiny habits accumulated over time, most of which include my notebooks. Now, when I say tiny journaling habits, I mean that they only take a few seconds to do, they're very low friction and easy to implement into your daily life. And when I say huge impact, I mean they have substantial positive benefits on your life once done over time. Or at least they have for me and for many other people. So maybe they can for you too. Before I bought my first pocket notebook, I was hooked to my phone. I would spend an average of 5.5 hours a day scrolling on social media, Reddit threads, the internet. I used to use my phone for everything. I'd use it for notes, to-do lists, reminders. Everything that you could think of was mediated through that 6-inch screen. And while at first I loved having all that power in my hand, the smartphone was very exciting when it first came out, it slowly started to turn into a dependency. It felt like a chain rather than a source of freedom. This is a very common problem in today's world. I think everybody feels like they're on their phone too much or more than they would like to be, and carrying around a pocket notebook is a tiny habit that gives you an option. See, that's the thing that I was missing before I started carrying around a pocket notebook, there was no alternative to the phone. It was the be-all end-all of all of my thoughts and ideas and social interactions. But once you start carrying around a pocket notebook for the first time, there's an alternative. There's something else that you could turn your attention to that's in your pocket. Carrying around a pocket notebook gave me a sense of independence. I could finally choose creation over consumption and focus over distraction. Now, I've heard some people claim that it's really annoying or cumbersome to carry around a pocket notebook, but if you think about it, these things are pretty small. They're actually going to be smaller than most iPhones these days, so you could slip this in your back pocket if you wear jeans, and a coat pocket if you're wearing a coat. If you're a girl, it fits into most purses, you can throw it in a bag, whatever. It's not that hard to carry around a pocket notebook. And this is a time-honored tradition. People like Charles Darwin carried around pocket notebooks when he was sailing across the world on the SS Beagle. And Leonardo da Vinci used to hang a pocket notebook by his belt and draw observations or record notes about conversations he would see throughout town. You could do this today. You could get a pocket notebook. They're super cheap. You can find them pretty much anywhere. I make my own, but you can get them from companies like Field Notes or Moleskine or whatever you like. And you can start unlocking this potential today. And it's a very tiny habit. You just start carrying it on you and you can make a big difference in your life. You could be using your phone less and creating more. Now, the reason I list carrying around a pocket notebook as the first one is because this one makes all the other habits we're going to talk about today easier. If you just always have a pocket notebook on you, then you can always pull out a journal and start doing some of these tiny habits that we're going to talk about today. The biggest lie we tell ourselves is, I'll remember. But you and I both know that's probably not going to happen unless you write it down. The modern world is vying for your attention at all times. And the thing about the modern world is it's very exciting. It's very novel. There's lots of things to pay attention to. There's more information available than have ever been available to anybody in history. But the problem is our working memory is very limited. There's only so much we could think about at any given time before we start dropping the ball on everything that we have to take care of in our lives. So when you have something that you need to do later come up in your head and you don't write it down, you actually create a little bit of stress. You're trying to hold something in your head and not forget about it while you're being bombarded with all this other stuff. And that all gets fixed the moment that you just write it down. So that's why this habit of idea capture in a pocket notebook or a notebook of your choice is so important, because if you have an idea for a creative project you want to do, or if you want to capture an action item that you want to take care of on your to-do list, if you just take a few seconds to write it down, all that stress gets alleviated. You don't have to worry about forgetting it. It's somewhere safe and you know that it'll be there next time you look. This creates what they call an idea bank. It's an asset. But more than just externalizing the information into like an external source of memory, like a notebook, the actual process of writing something down by hand helps encode information into long-term memory so that you can recall that information at a later time. Now, this has all been proven by studies over and over again, where they found students who take notes by hand remember the information better than those who type. And this is just one of those easy tools. You could just quickly take note of something and you'll probably remember it later without actually having to reference your notebook. It's that process of writing it down that helps with the memorization. So for people who want to learn things better, just take a second to write down something that you find interesting. Or if you're trying to be more productive, take a second to write down something on your to-do list. If you're trying to memorize quotes or poems or anything like that, take a second to copy the quote down in your notebook and you can reflect on it later. And for the creatives out there, take a second to write down any idea the moment it pops into your head. And on that rainy day when you're feeling void of ideas, it'll all be waiting for you, ready to be explored. We forget the life that we live fast. Even moments that seem really important can fade away like a dream within a few days. And the pace of social media and the news cycle isn't doing us any favors with our memory. So that's why the next tiny habit that I recommend doing, that I do personally every single day, is I just write 1 or 2 sentences about my day. Just what memory stands out from the day. And these memories don't have to be anything special or spectacular. A lot of days are mundane. But at least try to remember one thing from the day, just the one thing that stood out to you. Sometimes for me, this is really simple, like just a coffee trip that I went to with my wife, or maybe I noticed a caterpillar on my walk with my dog. And if that's the thing that comes up to me when I go to sit down and write this 1 or 2 sentences, then that's what I'm going to write down. But what's great about these sentences is they act like zip files, where when you go back and you read that sentence in the future, it takes you back into that moment with a surprising amount of clarity. That's because memory is contextual and interrelated. One memory can trigger another memory, which can trigger another, and so on. Most people think you need to write extensive diary entries to remember their life, but you really just need a couple sentences to trigger the memories, and then your imagination will start to replay that movie that happened. Now, why does this matter? Well, who cares if you can remember little moments from your day? Well, the thing is life feels really frantic and fast when you aren't taking note of it. It feels like it's all passing you by. And that's because you don't really have the memories giving you proof that you've lived that time that has elapsed. And as you get older, your reference of time changes. So these little journal entries that just kind of can bring back a moment really help to slow down time a little bit. It gives you a little bit more time to chew on your life and to look at it from an overhead view and see that you have lived a life. You've had a lot of experiences. You just maybe forgot about them because you weren't writing them down. I don't think there's ever going to be a time machine or anything like that, but I think this is as close as you could possibly get to it. And it only takes a few seconds to write down a sentence or two at the end of the day. All right, that's enough talking about the past. Let's see how we can use notebooks and these tiny journaling habits to build the future that we want to move towards. The next method is best explained with a personal story. So earlier in the year, I got myself into a little bit of financial trouble. My credit card debt was piling up faster than I was able to pay it off. And at first, it didn't really seem like a big deal. It seemed like I might be able to catch up. But as the year went on, I started to realize, oh shit, this interest is actually really starting to pile on. I need to make some changes or this is going to get out of hand real quick. The thing is I didn't think I was spending that much money. So I was kind of confused, like how I even got myself in this position in the first place. So what I decided to do was to start tracking every single transaction. So every time I spent money or made money, I tracked it in a journal and I added up the tally at the end of the day and I would see what my total loss or credit was. And I just started trying to figure out, like, where's the money going? After just a few days of tracking, the problem became pretty obvious. The math wasn't mathing. I was spending too much money on shit that I just didn't need. And the thing is I was unaware, like subjectively, it felt like I was living a normal lifestyle. Like I'm living just like Mary Jane over here and Joe Schmo over there. But the data was not going to lie to me. When I started tracking everything, it became very apparent. You make this much and you spend this much. And there's just no bullshitting your way through that. So once I started tracking everything and I had real data on where the money was going and where it was coming in, then I was able to make a new plan. And with the new plan, I was able to start combating that debt and getting my finances back in order. And so after a few months, I was able to start paying down that debt and start increasing my savings. And it just took a few simple life changes that I was able to make because I had clarity on exactly what the problem was and where the money was going. All this is to say that the reality is we are very good at bullshitting ourselves. We're very good at creating a narrative that we're the hero, we're the good guy, we're doing the right things, we're making the right moves. But sometimes objective reality it's gonna tell you the truth. All right, if you're not doing the right things, you're gonna find out real quick. And the best way to get that objective reality is to track things and log things that are relevant to the goals that you have. Now, I promise these are all tiny habits, and one of the smallest, easiest ways you can get in the habit of doing this tracking or logging is to create a habit tracker. You know, how much effort does it really take to fill in a box that you didn't overspend for the day, or that you didn't overeat for the day, or that you made some positive contribution to a project for the day, or that you read for 30 minutes that day? It's a very low lift to just fill in a box. And studies have repeatedly shown that you can increase the odds of achieving a goal by as much as 42% by just writing it down. And then people who track their goals and log that progress are more likely to achieve their goals. And it's because you have that sense of progress. You can see the objective number of where you started and then where you end up down the road. And it's very motivating. When you start to see those numbers go the way that you want them to, it's very motivating. Or when you see that habit tracker start to build up a streak, you want to keep that streak alive. And so this is just a really powerful way to create a visual indicator of progress that can help you reach the goals that you have. But tracking and logging alone isn't going to be enough to reach your goals. You're going to need a plan, and you're probably going to need a lot of plans. Now, most people I know will start their days in a very reactive state. They'll wake up and they'll look at their phone immediately, and then there'll be a news story that captures their attention, or an email that demands that they start getting to work, or maybe they'll just scroll away on social media for the first hour of the day. And this all creates a sense of reactivity. You're not being proactive about your day, you're reacting to the demands of the day. And if you have goals, if you have somewhere you're trying to get in the future, then reacting to things isn't going to get you there. Being proactive, making plans, and sticking with them will. And I don't want to sound like I'm making a judgment or moralizing. I did that exact thing where you wake up and you just look at your phone for the first couple hours of the day for years. I mean, literally for years I did that. But in the last 2 years, I've not done it once. Instead, what I do is I go and I open up my journal and I create a time block for the day, and I plan out my day. I create a rough plan of what I'm going to do. I think most people know intuitively that if you make a plan for the day, you're more likely to get the things done that you need to get done. And that's why people will do things like make to-do lists. But the author of Slow Productivity and Deep Work, Cal Newport, I heard him once say on a podcast that we don't make to-do lists, we make wish lists. And what he means by that is that most people will write down the stuff they have to do, but they won't actually be realistic about the time they have to do it, and they won't be realistic about when they're going to do it. So they'll get it all out of their head, which is great. That's the first step. You get it out of your head so you don't have to juggle all that information in your head anymore. But then you need to make a plan, some sort of plan of when you're going to do that thing, where, and how. So what I like to do is either in the morning of or the night before is I'll create a time block, and I will label each section by the hour. And I'll just take that to-do list of things I need to get done for the day, and I'll try to plot it out on my day and see where I could fit it in. And this is a tiny habit. I promise it doesn't take more than 1 or 2 minutes to quickly jot out how you're going to approach the day and create a proactive plan. Now, here's the thing. These plans will fail because no plan survives contact with reality. So something's going to come up during the day that maybe you weren't expecting, or something will take more time than you thought it was going to take. But the point isn't that you have this perfect plan and you're going to stick to it. The point is that by creating plans every day, you're developing the ability to be realistic with your time, proactive with your day, and create these plans to move towards your goals. And so you're training the planner, not trying to create the perfect plan. And that's going to allow you to be more adaptable. You're going to be able to make changes. So you'll have a rough idea of what you need to get done for the day. You're going to have it kind of plotted out. Something's going to throw you a curveball, but you're going to be able to move with it. You're going to be able to adapt. You're going to be able to say, okay, well, I can move this here and that there, and you get better with it over time. And this is one of those tiny habits I literally do every single day. It is a game changer because the days that I do skip doing it, I don't really get anything done. But there is one more unexpected benefit from this, which I have really grown to appreciate, is that when you create these plans, what I like to do is actually keep a log of what I did do and at what time. So I might have the ideal plan and then the reality of what I actually did. And that reality is so invaluable because what it does is it documents your life over time. As you document these days, you get to start to see, like, from a higher level where your time is going, where your attention is going, and the things you've been working on. The documentation can show you things that you might not have realized otherwise. You know, over the course of months, you could see, like, wow, I spent a lot of time reading and writing, but I didn't really spend any time with my family. Maybe I want to make some changes there. And you could start to adapt these plans to incorporate some of these other things that you might want to have in your life. And it's really cool because I can open up my old bullet journals and I can go to any day of the year and I can see exactly what happened. I could see what I was doing, who I was with, the things I was working on, the books I was reading, the articles I was writing. It's really cool. And it's all there because I took a few seconds to write it down. It's a tiny habit, but I promise it can have a huge impact on your life, or at least it has for me. If you're looking for some more techniques for journaling, check out this video right over here where I share 10 different journaling methods in 10 minutes.